Good morning, everyone. This is Kendall Askins from Stimulating Minds. Askins stimulates on all of our social media platforms, joining you another day with another gem to drop. And so today I had to get on here and share the power of self-identity in public education. And honestly, this lesson is coming through my children, and I felt it was so powerful. I wanted to share. We live in an area where we are the minority, right? And so when my children go to school, they are one of literally a handful of African Americans in the school. Majority of the school, the children that go to their school, in all of their schools, they're in 4 different schools, do not look like them. However, I am very strong and intentional about them understanding who they are as African Americans and embracing that, from the foods we eat to how we do our hair, and everything in between. So I'm going to share with you a few different examples of what my children have experienced. So there have been positive and negative experiences. So my son, he went to school, this was a couple years ago, and he made friends very easily. And he had this one friend that was being very playful with him, and they were playing back and forth, and the friend called him the N-word. And he was very upset about it, and he didn't tell on his friend. And he came home and he told me, this happened. My friend called me the N-word, and he was very adamant that this was his friend, right? And that it was in a playful moment, and the child thought that it was appropriate to use this language. And so I asked my son, well, how did you handle it? And he said he got very serious and very firm, and he expressed to his friend that word is extremely hurtful and it's not appropriate to use. And he articulated to his friend that that's not acceptable. And the friend apologized and never did it again, right? And that's a perfect example how sometimes children are exposed or use this language and they don't really know or understand, but there's not malicious intent behind it. And then once they're educated, if they truly are not coming from a malicious place, they will self-correct, right? Once they know better, they do better. And so my son had the opportunity to stand in who he was, educate his friend, and then his friend adjusted and then never did it again, right? And so that was a very powerful moment that, even though very hurtful, my son was able to stand in that and make sure that he was treated with the respect that he deserves. Now, my girls, they have had more interesting, positive situation. So my oldest, there are 2 scenarios. The other day, she decided to embrace her natural curls, very excited. She learned how to define them, and she wore these beautiful big curls to school, and she was very excited about it. And throughout the entire day, she came home and she told me how people were genuinely excited, hyping her up. Oh my goodness, this is beautiful, from teachers to students. There were other African American children telling her that she was Black girl magic and the epitome of Black excellence and what her hair looked like. And then there were children that had genuine questions. She told me about a little girl that looked at her and said, "I love your afro. How did you get your hair like that?" Because she wears her hair in different ways. And so they were genuinely coming to her, asking her questions, trying to figure out, but also complimenting and in awe. And she stood in that, right? And she owned that. She could very easily know, nobody has hair like this that goes to school with me. And so I want my hair to look like theirs. I want it to be straight, or I wanted to wear it in a ponytail or whatever. And she didn't do that, right? She owned what was different, and then she embraced their curiosity, right? And she has research and understanding what the Crown Act is, and she's educating her friends and her classmates, which I think is so beautiful. Another example of her owning who she is, she was telling me how she was having a conversation at lunch with friends who had never heard of baked mac and cheese. She said that her friends all had only eaten macaroni and cheese out of a box. And she's like, "A box? what are you talking about? Like, macaroni and cheese is not cooked on top of the stove. It's not made from a box. And they said, yes, it is. Like, how else would you cook it? And she said, you bake it. You bake mac and cheese. And they did not know what she was talking about. They said, you can't bake macaroni and cheese. And she proceeded to educate them on what baked macaroni and cheese is and how it can be cooked in the oven. And she told them, it is so good. You know, next time my mom makes some, I'll make sure to bring it. And they were asking questions and they were having a genuine debate. And I thought this was so beautiful because it was able to expose children to different cultures, right? Different foods, something that's so regular to us that on any given day, I can make a pan of mac and cheese and have it as a part of a meal. It's a side, right? Where her friends are eating it as a meal, on top of the stove, right? And she's like, what are you meaning? Like, you have to have some foods with your mac and cheese. And so these are the conversations that she's getting to have and understanding how, her friends are walking through the world and they are being exposed because in this area, they're the majority. So they see that all the time. This is normal for them. And so now they're being exposed to something that is different. My 11-year-old wore her hair straight, right? And for a long time, I usually put it in braids or she has it a little curly. And she wore it straight and it's been straight for a few weeks. And one of her friends came to her and said, how is your hair staying straight? Like, why is it still straight? And she said, well, at night I wrap it. You know, I put a headscarf on to keep it. And they're like, a headscarf? What's a headscarf? And she's like, what? What do you mean, what's a headscarf? Right? And she's describing to them like what it means to wrap her hair around her head, what it means to put a headscarf on, what a headscarf looks like. And they're asking genuine questions and she's answering them, right? She's not ashamed. She's not embarrassed. She's not getting upset. She's genuinely teaching them and they're asking and they're learning, right? And my youngest, same thing, 7 years old, went to school with her hair straight and her friends were in awe. Leilani, like, how did your hair get so long? It's normally short. It's normally in twist. How is that possible, right? My oldest went to school with her hair in twist and they were looking and saying, how is your hair twisted and you don't have rubber bands on the end? How does it stay? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, I just twisted to the bottom and this is how it looks. And so I'm sharing these stories because there is beauty in both sides. There's beauty in the natural curiosity of children and that these children feel very comfortable and in awe of asking these questions and learning, and they want to learn and they're curious about things that are different from what they've experienced. And we need to make sure that we're cultivating that and that we're encouraging that, right? It is so important for us to know something outside of our regular routines. And the fact that these children are seeing something different and it's beautiful to them and they're embracing it and they're asking and they're learning, that is amazing. But it's also equally amazing that my children are comfortable enough to stand in who they are, right? And embrace knowing I'm one of the only ones that look like this. I'm one of the only ones that experience this. I'm the only one at this table that has ever had mac and cheese baked in the oven, right? And I'm not going to shrink my experience. I'm going to stand 10 toes down on my experience and I'm going to educate people who have never been exposed to things that I know exist outside of this bubble. And so the beauty that comes when you own who you are, right? And the other side remains curious about something that they know nothing about. There is something amazing that is created. And so as we continue to learn from children, as we continue to stand in who we are, I want to leave you with this message of like, own who you are. Take up that space, show up, right? Unapologetically, because people are open to learning. And for your children, pour that into them so that they know how to take up spaces in spaces where they may not be, the majority, right? Where they may be the only one who looks like them, but they can still own that space and teach, and others will flock to them, right? So there's such power in owning our self-identity in that public education space and in spaces where there is a mixture or different types of people outside of what we know. So let's continue learning together. I'm curious, do any of you have an experience like this? Let's hear about it down in the comments below. Like this video out, share it, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more enlightening things like this. Let's make it an amazing day, and I'll see you back here later for more fun. Bye.